How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, everybody? Marco here from 14P, and I am bringing you the trade targets for Week 9 and beyond, because we're at the point where teams either need to make a move or you could make a really nice late season push to further yourself or solidify yourself that spot in the playoffs for your fantasy league. So I've got a couple names, and then I want to touch on some opportunity that you might have at the end of this video if you're not looking for a specific player, but you're just looking to improve. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kick it off with a guy who we've talked about quite a bit in Rashod Bateman. Rashod Bateman's schedule coming up is amazing. He plays Minnesota, then the Dolphins, then the Bears. They are all bottom 10 teams in the league against wide receivers. And really what Rashod Bateman could do is something special from Week 9 on. You know, they're coming out of their bye week, and I think he's officially established himself as a guy who needs to get targets. I think he's a safe floor at 6 targets a game going forward, unless they are just dominating and go run heavy, which I don't know if they're going to be able to fully do that with their schedule. They've got some softer defenses, but with what they're doing with, trying to run the ball more, trying to get Lamar in chemistry with Bateman, continue that chemistry with Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, they're really in these tight games more often than we'd hope. And so I think that gives Rashod Bateman an opportunity to continue to be used by Lamar. And you never know. I mean, Marquise Brown is dealt with some injuries. He's dealt with some inconsistency. He's been phenomenal this year. I think he will still be probably the 1A, but I wouldn't be surprised if Rashod Bateman becomes the 1B in this offense. Like I said, a 6 target floor for him the rest of the way is kind of what I'm looking at. And even beyond those 3 games, he's got a really nice schedule. And Lamar likes him. He was a highly touted prospect coming out of the draft this year. I compared him to an Allen Robinson type. And I think he's got that kind of ceiling in his career. And I think he could finish his rookie season really well. So go ahead and try to make a move for him before he makes a big splash and you can't get him for cheap anymore. All right. The next guy I've got on my list is running back Javonte Williams. Obviously, he's a guy who a lot of people have hype around, so you might not be able to get him for super cheap, but I think he's a guy who might be worth paying a little bit more than he's worth right now for, because he's got Dallas and Philly, and then he's got a bye week. So his next 3 weeks are good. They're not great. After the bye week, he has 4 matchups, go all the way through the fantasy championship. He's got 4 matchups that are bottom 5 teams against the running back position, which is incredible. And then the other 2 games after that are 2 teams that are in the bottom 12 or the bottom 13 in the league. So go ahead and get Javonte Williams. I'm willing to pay a little bit more than he's worth right now, because he could be a Cam Akers end of season explosion, and he could win a lot of championships heading into Week 9 and beyond. All right, the next guy. Now, this guy you might have to pay even more than Javonte Williams. And I'll say this. I think the rest of the season, Javonte Williams is as good, if not better, than Elijah Mitchell. And that's kind of thoughts for Javonte Williams. But Elijah Mitchell, he's going to be harder to buy because he's guaranteed the work at this point. He's a little bit banged up with some ribs, but I'm not worried about that too much. I don't think the team's overly worried about it. I think they're giving him some extra rest, knowing just what is left in this backfield for the 49ers. He's got Arizona, the LA Rams, and then Jacksonville for his next 3 games. But from Jacksonville on, he really doesn't face many tough run defenses. In Week 17, he plays the Houston Texans. And, I mean, if you can get to the championship, he's probably going to be an RB2 with RB1 upside. I think he's a rock-solid RB2 the rest of the way. So I'm willing to pay a decent value for him. Right now, I'm trying to think about wide receivers I would give up for Elijah Mitchell. If you're desperate at running back, I'm okay giving up a Robert Woods-level player. I'm okay giving up a guy who we're going to talk about in a little bit, a Tee Higgins level player for Elijah Mitchell. And I know, it might not be apples to oranges. It might not be a 1-for-1 deal, but I think really what I need to communicate to you guys, or what I'm trying to communicate, is that Elijah Mitchell is an RB2 the rest of the way. He could be an RB1, 3, 4, 5 weeks for the rest of the season. And he's already had his bye, which is a plus. So maybe you've got a player who's got a bye week coming up and they're kind of in that RB2 conversation. move them. Even if you think they have a little bit more value than Elijah Mitchell, move them because you get an extra week of points from your running back if you can make a deal like that. So I'm interested in moves like that. And I think Elijah Mitchell was worth the fab if you paid for him. Don't really give him up unless someone's overpaying. And if you're going to go get Elijah Mitchell, I'm okay. Similar to Javonte, I'm okay overpaying a little bit, especially if the guy or one of the guys you're giving up has a bye week in the next couple weeks here. All right, so I just mentioned him, but the last guy on my list is wide receiver Tee Higgins for the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, Tee Higgins has underperformed this year. He's got a team that brought in one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He's one of the best wide receivers in Dynasty already at this point, and it's Ja'Marr Chase. Obviously, he is kind of the go-to big play guy. He's kind of the touchdown guy. When they need a touchdown, they're going to Ja'Marr Chase. But Tee Higgins is due for a positive regression here. He's seeing an insane amount of targets. And, you know, his next couple of weeks, he's got Cleveland and a bye week in Las Vegas. So even if it's not this week that you can trade for him on the bye week maybe. And he has a tough schedule going forward. But if he keeps getting peppered with, 8 to 12 targets a game, he's going to get this, he's going to get a decent rhythm. He's got a really nice floor. And Joe Burrow and this Bengals offense is looked incredible. They looked really, really good. A much better team offensively than they looked like last year. And I think really what people are hoping for from T isn't going to happen, but he's a solid wide receiver too. And he could be a flex for you based on his value right now. You can go ahead and trade a flex level player and maybe, a flex level running back and a wide receiver 3 or 4 and go get Tee Higgins. And he could be a high-end flex, low-end wide receiver 2 for you the rest of the season. I like Tee Higgins as even just strictly a volume play. He's going to be good. So that's the last specific player I have on your team. But I've mentioned this a little bit as we wrap up this video. There are a number of players who are injured or who are on bye or who maybe are even on the COVID list that I think you can go ahead and trade for a team that needs wins right now. And if you're a team that's got, I'd be a little bit nervous with 3 losses to bring them in this week. But if you've got 3 losses or less, I think you can go ahead and explore options here for players who are on bye or players who are injured. The top 3 that are on bye, DeAndre Swift, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin. I think those guys should be some of your top 3 targets if you can make those moves. And those teams right now are looking for players to fill in. And then as far as COVID list or injured, I had Saquon on this list. It came out just moments before I started recording that he is officially off the COVID list now. So he might play this week. But if he doesn't play this week, go ahead and make an offer for him because he could be back soon. You might have to pay more than you're hoping. Not quite Saquon level, but you might have to pay just below Saquon level to go get him. But he's worth it because his schedule the rest of the way is phenomenal. And once he comes back, if he can stay healthy, I know it's his major if, but I think he'll be able to do it to wrap up this season. And if he can, their schedule is amazing for the running back position. So Saquon's a nice guy if he doesn't get in this week. And if you're got an owner in your league who has Saquon or a manager in your league who has Saquon and is just nervous, is like, even if he comes back, I'm so worried about the ankle. Are they going to slowly ramp him up? Capitalize on that hesitancy because sure, you might have 1 or 2 weird weeks with Saquon, but if you're a contender in your league, go ahead and take him because the last, 4 or 5 weeks of the season, he could be someone that catapults your team to a championship team. And then DeAndre Swift, he's got a tough schedule. Maybe someone's a little bit worried after the one down week he had. Go buy DeAndre Swift on his bye week. DK Metcalf is getting Russ Wilson back next week. So go ahead and go try to get DK. Terry McLaurin, again, he's similar to Tee Higgins. He's a volume play, but he does more with his volume than Tee Higgins has been able to do. So go ahead and look at those guys. Those are my top 4. If you've got questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Or you can always find me on Twitter at Marco_14P. DM me any questions, rosters, start sits, anything you got, and I'll answer as many as I can. Thank you guys for hanging out, and we will see you next time. Peace.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.